I'm gonna do the countdown. Okay, we're live. It's still not showing.
Wow. Okay, we have an avatar here.
Yeah, yeah. Listen. We're gonna have to just roll with it. I have no idea what's going on with my StreamYard today, and it is not allowing me to be great. Ronnie, go ahead and do the introduction while I go ahead and try to fix this problem. Okay.
All right. Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? And welcome to RonnieandYasheka's Dating Discussions. I am Ronnie Walker, your master coach of exceptional dating, relationships, and sex. And the energy that you see next to me is the lovely host as well, Yasheka Foster, otherwise known as the artist of dating. And how are we making out here? I guess we have a little technical difficulty. No, more so challenges. As we know, technology is a wonderful thing as long as it's working. But what we have learned to do is adapt. So we do have an incredible and of course intriguing subject to cover today, this evening, and or afternoon or the morning, based on when you're listening to it. So listen, we're just going to let it fly, and as it goes along, we're just going to make it do what it do. So I want to welcome everyone here, and just know that, hey, by the way, it's interesting how when I was on a podcast earlier, just talking about communication and effective communication and how that is so important. And we know we talk about it, communicate, 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 but just food for thought while we get things in order here. Just food for thought. Just make sure that you find out how, for those of you, as you go off into the dating, make it a point to know the signals or the language, the tone that a person likes to communicate in. It will help you. Trust me, it will help you. This is something that, again, I get it. We all tend to come in with what we had from before in terms of, let's just say, prior relationships, where we bring what we bought, those habits from the previous till now. And I will say that what you want to do is find out how this person's received communications, or not more, or you also want to make sure that you communicate to this person how you like to receive it. Because again, when we talk about things like tone, what you may consider whisper, someone may consider yelling. What you would consider yelling, someone says that yet not being assertive enough. So this is something that I think is important in the space of dating, that you really take the time to learn the language of the person you're communicating with. So this way you can be effective. And sometimes one of the ways that will help you in this space is when someone's communicating something to you and they want you to get their point. What you can say is, so let me see if I understand this correctly. Um, what you're saying is A, B, C, D, E. Why am I doing this? A, B, C, D, E. And from this, you could repeat back what he or she communicated to you. And that way you play it back. And then, because see, here's the thing, based on the state that you're in, you may not hear it effectively. So with that being the case, repeating it back to this person, they could say yes, or they could say, let's just say, for instance, what they said wasn't in the way they wanted to say it, or they realized that you may have heard them wrong, or that upon the playback, they realize, no, that's not what I meant to say. And so then they start again. So really learn the language of communication in the space of dating. And this way, nothing gets lost through the cracks. And this way, you can progress a lot quicker. It's just learning that. Now it's very, very important. It's another thing just to sit across the table from each other over dinner happy hour, hors d'oeuvres, or whatever, and you are just talking back and forth and asking people questions. Ta-da! There we are. There we are. How are you doing?
Listen, I don't
Well,
even know. Can you even hear me?
yes, well, I can hear you, and I'm sure if I can hear you, then the audience can hear you as well.
Listen, I have no idea what's going on where I couldn't even get on the screen. So there's two windows with my face on it, and I'm looking at my one on the screen here that has completely frozen up. And I tell you what, technology does not want me to be great today, but we're gonna go ahead and roll with it,
I'm gonna make it
and
happen.
go from there because I don't even understand what's going on with my computer. I'm looking at it, and yeah. So we're gonna just keep going. We're gonna just keep going and see what we can do, right?
There we go. There we go. Now I was talking about a whole completely different subject because I didn't want to give away what we're going to cover this evening. But well, why don't you go ahead and just since you're back here, introduce the subject, Yasheka.
Okay, well, I'm looking at you from here,
I can see that's fine.
one place, and then I'm going to be let me turn it up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be listening to you. Nope, that's not working
Uh-oh.
either. Listen, let me figure out my whole life. But okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear yes.
Okay, I'm gonna be looking because I got you here on my cell phone, and then I got the computer up here. So my face is gonna be everywhere today. So, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, okay, this whole listen, I got two different camera shots going on here, and the one that I'm looking at is not the best. Is not the best as far as looking at me or whatever, right? I don't want to be looking down. I need to prop my cell phone up. But let's introduce the subject, Ronnie, tonight. Tonight's
I'm
subject
sorry.
is there a double standard?
Is
And listen, so let me tell you how this conversation came about. I was listening to someone else's live stream podcast or whatnot, and they were talking to someone, right? And while they were talking to the person, this person got on and he stated that it was a guy that he had three children by three different women. Okay. And now, if we were to rate people, he said that he wanted a 10 in woman. So a 10 in woman for him is a woman who, has a, beautiful face, small waistline, a Harvard grad, she has no children. She's a, whatever. She got all these amazing things going for her, not to mention she has the body and the personality to match it. So he said that that is the kind of woman that he is entitled to or that he should be able to get because that's what he desires. And because he's a man, these are his words, right? These are his words. Because he's a man and there's such a shortage when it comes to men versus women, that he still has the audacity, right? And I say that in a way where, other words, he has the confidence of knowing that he can ask for this because of the fact that there's more women than there is men. Although he has three.
oh, you're frozen. Oh. Uh-oh. I tell you, the technology gremlins are really at it. They have it in for you, Shiga, to this evening for some reason. Uh-oh, you're frozen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few worses, and being that she started with double sense, so I kind of think I believe I have an idea where she's going. Uh-oh, you're back. You froze up for a second there, and we don't know what happened. Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
I can see it. So yeah, so I think you kind of filled it in. But he felt that he was entitled to that type of woman. And so the person who was hosting the show asked him, she says, um, with you having three children by three different women that you did not marry, what makes you what makes you feel like you're entitled to a woman like this? And he said, because he could. And so I started thinking about it. I said, is it the men who think this way, or is it the woman? And is there and what I mean by is it the man that think this way? In other words, let's say for example a second that what he said was true, that he can go out here and get a women who are classified as a 10, and we use that that classification scale, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
um let's just say that he can get a woman like that, right? Is it really him to blame, or is it the women who allow him to come into their lives with everything that he has going on? In other words, shouldn't they hold themselves to a certain standard, and then that way everybody follows suit? Or because, or I'm not going to even say or because, I'm just going to simply say, so if these women do not hold themselves to a standard and they allow someone like him to come into their lives with his, he didn't have a degree. I don't know what his income level was, but I know he had 3 kids, 3 different women, and the youngest wasn't even a year old. He was looking for a partner. And it's like, okay, do we blame him or do we blame the women that allow him to do that if they do indeed take him up on his offer?
Wow. Okay. There's a number of things to unpack here. So let me just say this to both men and women. I always say that there's possibility and probability. So we can say anything's possible. The probability of it happening is a whole different story. And see, so a man or woman can want whatever the hell they want when it comes to a significant other. And of course, we go through the thing of, do they qualify? But to your question, in terms of who is held responsible for this way of thinking, well, I will go so far as to say, in some cases, it is the person themselves. In the end, they interpret how they choose to interpret. So let's just say that because there are more women than men, then he can request something as outlandish as that and get away with it. Yeah. But here's the truth about it. There are those times I've had conversations with men, and no matter what the subject is concerning the type of women they're looking for, a man knows the law of large numbers. And I think I covered that when we talked about going into the club and getting a dance. If you ask enough women, someone's going to take the bait. Mm-hmm. So let's just say, well, why do married men go in the inbox of single women? Well, it's simple, because he knows if he goes in enough inboxes, one of those women will nibble on it. That's just a fact. And so I know this bugs a lot of women, but I says, this is what this is. So we can talk to other men until we're blue in the face. I'm in groups of men, and we talk about the same thing about, hey, listen, you guys need to be better and be more disciplined in terms of what you do with your seed, mm-hmm. and having these children. But the truth is, you speak enough of these guys and they'll tell you that regardless of what their situation is, that there's some women out there for them. They see the potential. And of course, now if you have a man that has money, then sometimes all bets are off. So you could be overweight, 5 kids, whatever. You wave enough money to the women, there it is. And we're talking women that are 10s. So we see this all the time. As men, we see this all the time. He said, we make jokes about, maybe his credit's good or something of that nature, but we already make this assumption. So yes, there are women who will take him up on this offer in that space. Although logically, it's like, why? Why? You don't even have your kids. You may, and let's just say if he wants to want children and you want children, you're already skating uphill. Mm-hmm. So it's both. We can debate what percentage is bigger, but in reality, it's his illusion, or is it a delusion if he's going to say, look, I can go out there because there are more women, and some women are more desperate than others, there we are.
I mean, and I don't know the history of this particular gentleman. I just caught this. And if I was to evaluate this particular man, I would want to know about the women. So in other words, at woman number 1, for example, and just taking his situation individually, with the mother of his first child, that was one thing. But then the second woman came along. So was there a part of her that still felt like, okay, I'm a 10, he only has 1 child, so I'm gonna be okay with that. You know what I mean? And so, it's kind of like that thing. But then by the time you get to woman number 3, what was her thinking process? You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I would want to know these women particularly because in order to ask for a 10 after having 3 children, I need to see what your 3 children's mother look like first because they may not be what we say are teen.
Well, exactly. That was going to talk to that exactly.
I hate quantifying people, but we live in this world where people understand numbers. People understand,
Right.
Sizes of something in comparison to, you got a lump the size of a grapefruit or a lump the size of a grape. You know what I mean? And so when we say tens, we know that means top of the line or
Right. A
so.
dime piece. Yeah. You say the dime.
Yeah, if I just say beautiful or put together or successful, that means something different to everybody. But then my question goes back to, is there a double standard? Because you said that people may ask for it, but is that necessarily what they're going to receive? So usually, like, I don't know of, unless they're superstars, like women that are famous and rich and all that kind of stuff. They can get another man after they've had 3 children. Look at the that family, that crazy family. How when that one, I'm not gonna mention the name, but how when that one woman come up out of the divorce with that superstar black guy, she was able to cast around her new boo, and she got like 5 kids or something like that. So we know in that world, the rules don't apply. The rules are a little different. But out here in the regular world, we know that won't ever be the case for a woman. You know what I mean? If by chance there's a woman that look up after having 3 different fathers, 3 different kids, and she happens to get a man that's, you know what I mean, this once in a lifetime guy, then that only happens once in a lifetime. So I say that to say that we know that talking about women on that note, it's not even an option because we already know that that'll never happen for us, right? If we go out here and get 3 different, babies and with 3 different men, we already know that the odds of us finding this perfect 10 guy with all this money, good looking and educated and all this stuff, it's not gonna happen. So I say that to say that, so when it comes to men, do men really feel that inside of them that they still are just as good as gold? Because the man, and this is a 2-part question, because the man went to say, because when the host said to him, well, what makes you a 10? You've had 3 kids. He says, I didn't have 3 kids. He says, I have 3 kids, but I didn't have 3 kids. He says, so his body is not pushed out of shape or whatever, because he didn't have to carry. So for him, it's like he says, I'm just the father. That's what he said. He said, I'm just the father. And so I'm like, but that's not the point of the matter. It's not about what your body is. I mean, it is about your body, but that's not just the point of it all, because there's some women that have snapbacks, and then of course people are going to get mommy makeovers and all this kind of stuff. So we're not even talking about that part. We're just talking about the audacity that you have 3 children. And that's what he couldn't see. It wasn't so much of what your body looked like. It was the fact that you're coming with baggage. You're coming with, some mess. You understand what I'm saying? So how dare you say that you deserve this woman, right? So is it just because of our bodies that we're not qualified for that? Or does that not matter in terms of,
Well, that does play a part. Remember, the reasons that women want a lifetime, I mean, what they find attractive in a man is going to be different than what a man finds attractive in a woman. Mm-hmm. And we do know, as we talk about that, body does play a part. Mm-hmm. Looks does play a part. And so for women to try to get men to change this, mm-hmm. Again, that's a whole nother discussion, a whole nother show. Men look at that. Mm-hmm. They do. Fair, unfair, whatever the case may be. So a woman with 3 is going to be viewed as different than a woman with 1. A woman with 5 is going to be looked at different with 1. And that's just the way it is in the minds of a man. In the man's role, in terms of him having, let's say, 3 children, you're right. He is a father, but a woman is looking for a man who can protect and provide. And if he's able to do that with those 3 children, women will look past that. Again, when we're talking about with enough money, he doesn't have to be a superstar.
Mhm.
You just have to say, what is it that she's looking for in a man? Now, if it's, and we're talking now, if this woman that we're speaking of, who's a 10, has no children.
Right.
Now, if she has a child, then, well, let's go back to her having no children. Well, then the question is going to beg itself: does she want children? Maybe
Right.
she doesn't want to have children because she wants to stay, quote unquote, a 10. Maybe she doesn't want to do the snapback or the mommy
Mhm.
makeover. She wants to stay the 10. And you know what? She's okay with being stepmommy. So for her,
Yeah.
it's a win-win. So there are a number of variables, but don't forget that the reason, the parameters that a man looks for a woman is different from what a woman looks for in a man. And so this is where the whole body, comes in. And after so many kids, if she's taking care of herself now, of course, there are many who, there's some who may look phenomenal after 2, 3 kids.
Mhm.
But is that really the norm? And again, that's debatable. So, and if he's looking for 10, well, again, it may be unfair or double standard, but this is what it is. And we can find that to be on both sides. However, it would behoove me that a woman who is a 10 without children would want to spend her time with a man who's got 3. I mean, but again, I'd be like, look, you need to create your own legacy, things of that nature, and have your own. But again, I've spoke to women who the last thing they want to do is have children. They work hard and they do their body, and this is what it is, and they're done. So they have no problem being stepmommy to a man's child
Yeah. I
or
mean,
children in this case.
right. I mean, and just like one of the viewers said, he says, I can't believe that a man would even utter that out of his mouth. And but the thing about it is that that's a true statement. Like it's almost like the audacity of someone to even think that. But and in all honesty, we hear about people having babies with someone that already has multiple babies already. You understand what I'm saying? And so it's like, okay, now, yes, when we get to a certain level in life, we kind of not do those things anymore. When it comes to, when there's levels to life, right? So when in the
Right.
very beginning, we're young, we do things. Once we get to a certain level in life, that doesn't happen. Because I mean, I couldn't imagine being in my 30s or 40s for me and still doing something like that. You know what I mean? However, it still happens. So it happens all the time, right? So we can't all pretend like we all of a sudden woke up one day and we was grown and we had the money that we
Right.
have and the experiences that we have, because that's not the case. Life or whatever, we all have to go through that. And so because we're all going through that, along the way there's going to be some things that we're going to go through. And so just like in each generation, there's going to be that group of people, right? Because the 20 something year olds are going to be our age one day, and they're going to
Right.
make their mistakes just like we made our mistakes. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, like, I don't know, but this internet is giving me pause.
I had a feeling. Yes, you're looking a little jagged. I noticed that you're in kind of slow motion in a way. I understand that. But yes, it's this subject here is something that's debated more than people know, and it's going back and forth. So, for instance, even when we talk about looking for someone, you have groups on Facebook that have men that are warning men not to date a woman who has children, period. That should not be an option for him. Although I don't see it too much in the reverse. Now, years ago, and there are some men who could attest to that being a stepfather, there was an honor in that. You know, um, this is something that you did. We didn't look at it as her having some sort of disease that she's off limits, that she's forever to be single. There are many men who've stepped up to the plate and become stepfathers, and some today. I don't think, unfortunately, today don't get as much credit as they do. However, when it comes to the men, I don't hear women talking as much about, hey, stay away from men who has got children. But again, the parameters that women are looking for a man are different. When we're talking about that, they're looking for different things. So as long as he can, and then, of course, the question becomes, is he in custody of the children? See him every once in a while, or he doesn't see him. I mean, there's just so many things that are factored into all of that as well. But let's just say they're split custody, and they say that as long as he can prove that he's a protector and a provider, there are many women who look beyond that. As long as he can prove that he's a protector, and this is what it is. So this is where you're on this debate, and I think it's a debate that's going to continue to go on. Yasheka's now gone into the ether of the internet in terms of. So, well, it'll be interesting to see what you all think concerning.
Can you hear me, Ronnie?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna add myself to the live without my picture because nothing today is allowing me to be great right now. But I'm gonna go ahead and say this before we end early because of technical difficulties. But I will say this: the problem with what you were saying about women looking at it from the perspective of, well, does he have custody over the children? Right? Here's the thing. I like to speak about things that I've been through. So, let me check. Wait a minute. Okay, can you hear me? Or is it still an echo? Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. It's crazy over here. So I'm sorry, but what I was saying was the problem with that is people don't take into consideration that life happens.
Absolutely.
And what I mean by life happens is that happened in my second marriage. My second husband he had 2 children already by 2 different women. And he took care of them and paid his support, and we got them for holidays and summers and weekends and things like that when it was possible, because one of them lived in the state, but the other lived out of the state. So we couldn't get her on the weekend, but the one that lived in the state, it was like 2 hours away. We got her most of the weekends. Well, it ended up being where, unfortunately, one of the mothers passed away. So once one of the mothers passed away, now we have this child full time. You understand what I'm saying? And so also my stepdaughter, my bonus daughter, she had 2 brothers. Her 2 brothers had the same father. So them 2 boys went with their father, who at that time had 2 kids from his new wife, right? So now it became 4 kids or something like that, or 5 kids. They had 2 or 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is that could easily be anybody's situation.
Absolutely.
So when people look at it like, well, he didn't have custody over kids and things like that, they don't know what the heck may happen, because life happens. You know what I mean? Life happens. And unfortunately, like I said, my daughter, my stepdaughter, my bonus daughter lost her mom, and so us getting her full time was it's just some adjustments that had to be made. But I became a mother full time to stepchildren at the age of 27. And so I was still young, and then shortly after that, I think it was like the following month, the other mother said that she could no longer provide the support that the other daughter was needing. So then we ended up getting her, you know what I mean? And so literally, so here I was, so I had 1 child of my own. So now I had 3 kids in the house. And then lo and behold, a few months later, I ended up getting pregnant and having my son. So it ended up being 4 kids in the house. And all that happened with over maybe a 15 month span. So people never know what happens. And so although, unfortunately, like I say, one mother lost her life, the other mother got into a financial bind, but it cost us to have to get both girls within 2 months of each other. You see what I'm saying? And so that was a big adjustment on everybody, because it's different when you make room for, children that only comes part-time, then you have to make room for them once they're there full-time. And so we never had enough space for all those children. So we had to start, moving stuff around, getting bigger house, whatever. And so that came with an adjustment. So I say that to say that, so when women are dating, whether it's a man dating a woman with multiple kids or with multiple people, or a woman dating a man with multiple kids and multiple people, you never know what may happen. So you have to align yourself when you are out here dating, because this is what we're about, helping people out here in dating. There is a double standard. Absolutely, there's a double standard. There's nothing we can do about that. You know what I mean? As long as there are different genders in this world, we're gonna always have. It's not gonna be fair on both sides. It's never gonna be fair on both sides, right? But you have to hold yourself to a certain standard, especially as a woman. And or, I won't even say especially. I'm gonna say either person, a man or a woman. You have to hold yourself to a standard, because we don't need to tell a man not to date a woman that has 3 kids by 3 different men. You know what I mean? I don't think that we have to tell a woman that. I mean, a man that. I think more likely he's going to do it. He may, knock on her door in the middle of the night sometime. But as far as anything serious, he's not really taking her serious, right? Now, on the flip side, there are women, because there's this shortage of Black men specifically. There are women who will put themselves in those positions quicker than men will. And so those are the ones that I want to talk to. You guys need to make sure that you know your value, your worth. Because when you're unsure of your value, your worth, you'll keep thinking that this is as good as it's going to get. And so before you know it, you're baby mama number 4, and he didn't marry you either. You understand what I'm saying? So if you got your stuff in order, and you got all these things that make up a 10, whatever that is. I don't, like I said, I don't get into that, but whatever that is, make you up an 8, 7, 10. I don't care what it is. Know what your limit is. Like some women will say, well, you know what? If he got 1 child, I'm good with that. Anything after that, no. You know what I mean? If that's your limit, stick to your limit. You understand what I'm saying? Like, stick to your limit. There's some women that will not date a man with a kid. Just like there's some men that won't date a woman with a kid. But if those are your standards, if that's what you feel, stick to it. You know what I mean? And I don't care, because listen, when you don't, down the line, when something starts to change, you're going to start thinking to yourself, see, I knew I shouldn't have done this anyway. I knew I shouldn't have done. I should have listened to my first mind, because I never date anybody like this. I never date anyone that falls into this category. And then as soon as you bend your rules a little bit, or you knock down your own boundaries, then you're looking at somebody, then you're looking crazy when you should have followed you should have, kept your stuff in, kept your own boundaries, because you can't expect anybody else to respect your boundaries if you don't, you know what I mean? So that's what I have to say about that. It's just my life experience with it. And I never thought, it was never a question in my mind that we would ever get my stepdaughters full time. You know what I mean? I never thought about that. Until it happened, of course.
I think your story is very timely. And this is where it's perfect, because just as I was mentioning earlier, you can come up with all these scenarios where it doesn't affect you. Well, okay, because the situation is like that, doesn't mean it's going to stay like that. So you really have to be cognizant of that. So this is, again, your story was perfect for those who thought that for some reason, because his situation is different, it doesn't mean it's going to stay different. Mm-hmm. Everything may come in. So this is I just can't thank you enough for sharing that. So, well, for the sake of, I guess, the technical challenges, we may want to call it an evening this time. But again, I think it's a conversation we can continue to have. And, let me just say this, though, this thing we call love, this thing we call dating, you just never know. I can't tell you how many times, I've met a man or a woman who thought they'd never date a person, if we're talking about the sake of this with the children or not, and then ending up doing so. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Sometimes it can happen in the reverse. Sometimes you go against what you thought, you know you shouldn't be a better judgment, and you ended up regretting it. But at the same time, if I could say anything, just have your standard. Mm-hmm. But don't be surprised if for some reason the person you end up meeting that blows your way is not the person you thought. So just throwing that out there. So
it always happens. You just got to know what you're getting yourself into.
Exactly. And as long as you know what you're getting yourself into and stand on that and own it, I agree 100%. So,
Yeah, and like you said, like Jason Jones said, and yes, because you end up settling. And that's the thing about it. Sometimes we do say, well, this person, like you said, blew me away, but you have to look beyond that and know what you're getting yourself into. In other words, if this person has 3 children, I'm just still using this person that we spoke of earlier. If he or she has 3 children, and whether it's by 3 different people or not, it's just the fact that they have 3 children. Okay, are you prepared if something happens? So if you decide to go long haul with this person, are you prepared if something happened and now these children are living in your house, or those children's mom end up being where they're about to be homeless, like whatever, because then the dad is going to step in and don't want his kids to be homeless. And so it's like these are things that you have to think about. So every time you add another life into the equation, you're going to bring in more situations. You know what I mean? It's one thing when you got, like you, and then maybe y'all got one child, meaning somebody else brought into a child relationship. That's just 3 people you got to worry about, more or less. And you know what I mean? And then maybe that child's other mother. So that's maybe 4 people. But then when you got 3 more children or whatever, you're bringing those children in along with their mother or if whatever. And so there's more things that's got to go on. You know what I mean? There's more.
absolutely. I mean, I never want, listen, and I hope, Alicia, when I spoke of love, that all of a sudden everybody's head, and I'm talking about you went to the ether and all of that. I don't want you to forget the practicality and the reality of the situation at hand. Because when you're involving others into your life outside of the significant other, and you're talking about children, there's a whole line of questioning that's involved, resources that now has to be reallocated. So listen, don't let what I say take you away from the reality of what's there in front of you, and or in this space in the dating, but could potentially be in front of you. So please know that and honor that. But just at the same time, just be aware of that. So you're right.
Yeah. I mean, love comes in strange places. We know it does. But like I said, and if that person you meet, do you. Like if that's the one that you feel like, what she say? It's 11 gonna be together forever and ever. And like listen, rock on. You know what I mean? Rock on. But just understand that if things happen, are you prepared? That's it. That's all. If you can't go back and say, I should have listened to, nope, you in it now.
Yeah. I think of that movie Claudine. What was it? Who was it? Claudine? Diane Carroll? Is that who it was? James Earl Jones? Well, that was in the verse where she had the kids and he didn't. But yeah, I think it was Claudine. I can't remember. And wanting it, and she was a woman. Anyhow, that's the whole. I think anybody could correct me if it was a movie Claudine. When we're talking about now coming into a ready-made family in a way, in that sort of situation. But but this was in the reverse. She had the children, he didn't. So,
Right.
But yeah, it was a great movie. I think it was Claudine, if I'm not mistaken. But no, ladies and gentlemen, probability, possibility. And be honest about that. Really be honest. So let's not forget that there are some men and women who are definitely delusional with some of the things that they ask for. And so we don't want to forget that part either. So that man in his particular case can want what he wants. But until we had some further questions that maybe was not asked on there, we couldn't determine whether or not he was really prepared to receive what he's asking for.
Yeah.
So because I would have some questions for that brother.
He could have been his whole life may have had 6s or 4s.
Exactly.
But it's just him and his delusion talking. He trying to pump his head.
Exactly.
What was funny, and I'm gonna say this before we go, what was funny was because this guy had been on this particular show twice, so that was his second time on the show. And so the host asked him, she says, well, were there any people that came to your inbox that was interested in you? He says, yes, there were women who were not my type, is what he kept saying. Not my type, they was this, ain't no wrong with them, but, just not somebody I was dating. So she said, well, let me get this straight. you think you are entitled to a 10, but yet when you were on my show before, she said, I got a whole bunch of 10s that watch my show, but yet none of them reached out to you. Only the ones who are not 10s reached out to you. So you don't get it yet that you ain't a 10 either. She said, because if you were really a 10, then 10s would have reached out to you.
Right. See what?
Really, if you really are entitled to a 10, 10 would have reached out to you. She said, but they didn't. She was like, the 4s and 5s reached out to you. So, brother, you may just be a 4 or 5.
See there, that's why I went right back to that. Yeah. In a lot of cases, let's not forget there are delusions. I will not say there aren't some delusional brothers out there. I'll be the first to tell you there are some. He just may be one of those. So that's interesting.
Absolutely. So yeah, it was interesting. But so anyway. So are there double standards? Absolutely. There's double standards. People are delusional. People have audacity. And then people want what they want, but that don't mean they're gonna get it. You know what I mean? What they say, people in hell want ice water. You know what I mean? Like, I remember they used to say that all the time. That don't mean they're gonna get it. So it just is what it is. But there are double standards because there are some things that one gender can get away with a little bit better than the other gender. Period, point blank. But as far as how much is getting away with it, it's not really up to that gender that's doing the thing. Is if other people allow that person to do the thing. That's what it boils down to. So yeah.
We can debate. Oh yes, the double standards. Everybody hates double standards until it benefits them, and then they have no problems with it. That's just the way it is, Ronnie. Okay, no problem. But no, it's.
Well, all right, Ronnie, we are going to wrap up this show, and I don't want to, and it's not we're like, okay, not wrapping up, but that way we can keep down on the static, because my internet has not been great for a while, and I've made the phone calls, and it's still not allowing me to be great. But I hope that the message was relayed, and that people still got what they need or what they came here for. For those of you who were kind enough to be in the comments and leaving comments,
thank you
so much for the support. And this has been still a good show in spite of the static problems, because it is what it is. More people are online. I think that's what it is. It's like a lot of people are online in my neighborhood, but that's just what it is. But anyway, Ronnie, you want to go ahead and do our little shameless plug and tell people where to follow us?
Yes, you can find us on Instagram, RonnieandYasheka. You can also go to datingdiscussions.com, and you can also see Coach Yasheka as well on Facebook, and Ronnie and Yasheka's Dating Discussion on Facebook group as well. So also, was that? Yes, I think I covered them all. So definitely reach out, and on Dating Discussions, you'll see a little information about Yasheka as well as information about me. And if there is some sort of consultation or coaching you'd like from each of us or together, feel free to reach out and send us an email, and we will make sure that we get back in touch with you and work with you. And that is pretty much it for the shameless plug.
All right. Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and we will see you guys in the next live. Have a good
one now. Take care.